What's up, Dream River World? My chair is like at a different angle. I'm not going to show you this thing, but it's quite a contraption because it's falling apart. But anyway, it's nice now. It's kind of like, it reminds me of when I used to have my car, and have the seat back, chilling, driving down the road. So, I presume y'all are doing okay for studying. You're figuring out how to be happy every day. I'm not going to start rapping right now, but maybe one of these videos I will. Tomorrow I'm going to be feeling pretty loose. So I made it through the week, folks. Yes, Megan would not shut the fuck up last night. It was just like, and it's just like, and I can't watch the video because she keeps yapping, and I got pissed. I was like, man, my neighbors probably heard me. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, but it was Saturday night, so. And then that was it. Like, Megan's done. I'm just like. Well, I should say, since y'all are reading this now, 2 nights ago, I think I said something about it briefly last video, but yeah, like, so, yeah, no, I didn't, because that would be, Saturday night. But anyway, yeah, so I got kind of good sleep, and then I got no good sleep. So, perhaps by the time you're reading this video, I'm already kicking back beers, because it's been a stressful week. Not so much stressful, but heavy loaded. I've had to do extra work. After the hiccup, getting everything caught up. And then, Megan, I don't know what her problem is, but so anyway, tomorrow's payday. So I get to kick back. So it'll be an interesting video tomorrow. I won't drink too much, but I will have whiskey, so that can always be fun. But I won't drink myself blind by that time. The way I do it now, since I don't have much money, is I schedule, you could call it binge drinking every month. I budget out a certain amount of money, to get a certain amount of liquor and beer. And I drink it for 2 or 3 days, morning till night, it's just like, that's the best way for me to do it right now. I can't afford to have beer in the fridge all the time, so that's the way to do it. And then I'm just sober, if I run out of everything, then I'm just sober, and it's no problem. That's what I'm here to teach you also, is that you might think that sobriety is tough, but the way I teach you isn't. But if you want to be sober, that's fine. Like I said, you don't have to do any kind of substances around me. I can kick it sober too, or if I'm drinking or whatever. It's just like whatever. I totally support you, but sobriety is not that difficult to beat, and once you do that, that's why in my 20s I learned how to be addicted. I studied all kinds of stuff with my own hands, kind of scientifically. And and then after I started learning this stuff, I was so used to addiction that I found the easy way to beat it. Eliminate all desires, Buddhist stuff. So all that to say is that drugs aren't bad except crack, and that includes alcohol, all right? But you got to know how to put it down, That whole saying, well, I can quit any time, it's like, that used to be a bullshit excuse, but now I'm teaching people how to be strong in the mind and to be able to put it down, It's like, okay, and the best way to do that, is to have a bunch of weed, It's like, if you do any kind of hard drugs like that, and you think you're getting addicted, just stop. Edibles are really good. THC edibles, gummies, stuff like that would work. But you got to plan ahead for it. Like, I'm going on a 3-day trip, whatever it is, some things you shouldn't do for 3 days. It's like, but you got to know, and you'll learn all that from me. All right. But that doesn't mean that you should go out and do drugs if you're not learning what I'm teaching. All right. I'm not condoning drug use if you're not educated by me. All right. Otherwise, you shouldn't do it. Just stick to your sobriety, Don't go to AA or NA. Like preachers and doctors, NA and AA are made to keep you sick, to give away your willpower. All right? That's not how we roll here. I teach you how to strengthen your willpower where you can do anything. All right? Okay, let's get going here. The Tao scripture. Heaven is eternal, the earth everlasting. How come they be so? It is because they do not foster their own lives. That's why they live so long. Therefore the sage puts himself in the background, but is always to the fore. He remains outside, but is always there. Is it not just because he does not strive for any personal end that his personal ends are fulfilled? I'm like, think about it. I had to go through some hardcore homeless persecution, Megan crazy telepathy stuff, insane telepathy. But I never strived for personal ends. It's like, I know it will come. I get assistance, and that's awesome. But it's not like I'm trying to get rich. Because I always know that the money will come. All I got to do is wait. My government is going to be incredibly rich because of the way I designed it, and it's indestructible. My government is me, is like me. You could say it's one of my kids, that kind of thing. And if you think about it, that's the way I am. It's like I know the way to last forever is to not be greedy and to be content. Because you can go a lot further with contentment than you can greed. And you might not think that's possible, but greed often gets you into trouble. But if you're content, you won't know anything other than being content. No matter what happens. You just got to be willing to let anything and everything go. Except your mindset. All right? You got to have those unconditional rules that you will not break them. Like I said, it all comes down to good or evil. All right, when you have a decision, is it going to be good or evil? Choose. And any other details, don't think about that. Because you already have it pre-programmed in your brain. Remember, I'm teaching you how to brainwash yourself. And ultimately, yes, you're dependent on me. I'm God. I'm King. But you can trust me because, my integrity is true. I'm not like, like I said, the cult leaders of recent, ever since the 60s. That's not me. Of course, it's not a satanic cult. Okay, so you might wonder how I remain so calm and stuff. It's all about what I preach. The Grand Scripture is another one talking about Mary. I like to bring up a lot of this Quran Scripture that talks about Jesus because the way that the United States government shaded things when they created terrorism over in the Middle East was to make people think that they don't believe in Jesus, and that's not what it is. And you can see some beautiful stuff here about Jesus and Mary, and this is where he talks as when he was an infant, like I was talking about. And he says even, let's see. This is when he was an infant. He said, talking about God, he commanded me to pray, to give alms as long as I live, and to cherish my mother. All right. Mary is highly regarded. All right. But the problem is, like Catholicism, for example, is when you've got a rosary, which those really came from the East. Rosaries aren't aren't original to Catholicism. They're called malas, and they're the beaded necklaces, and you can have those to pray with. Those are what Catholics want to make you think are Catholic jewelry or prayer beads, and but the problem, you don't pray to Mary. That's stupid. Why would you pray to Mary? Why would you pray to Jesus? It's just like, I mean, Jesus can help you through things, but I have the last word. I have the final word, You might think, oh, I'm a Christian. That's great. I have Jesus. I'm going to be saved. That's all I need. And then you get to the gates and I'm like, So you got to learn my way. That's the only way. Here. Peace was on me the day I was born, and it will be on the day that I die. And the day I am raised to life again. And that's talking about the crucifixion. But it says in the Quran and other places that you might think martyrs die, but they don't die. That kind of thing. So that's strung into what he's saying right here. It was made to look like Jesus died. And of course, I have the Judas theory that I've talked about before. I will cover that in a different lesson. But ultimately, Jesus was made to look like he died to fool the Jews. That's what it was all about. Because they were being so cruel to him. And the Roman government didn't care. Like I said, Pilate was interrogating Jesus, and Jesus said, well, you need to, or something like, you need to know the truth. And Pilate was like, what is truth? Because think of Rome, it's like anybody could be a god, kind of like India, it's just like, and if you're a leader, then you automatically became a god. If you're an emperor, like you had divine status, and that's the way the United States government wanted to turn out, but, no, and I came around at the right time. All this is timing that's preordained, all right, for me to figure all this shit out, going through my whole life and getting to this point and learning true wisdom. Like I say, if you're sinful, I totally understand. Like, I'm not this righteous goody-goody guy, I am very, I can be rough and I'm wild, It's like, but I can also be smooth and be a gentleman, all right? So, understand that this is all of the experiences that I've led up to, stop the bully, the United States government. All right? And we'll talk more about Jesus in a little bit. And then the Psalms it's quite a bit, but it gives you examples about how great things happened to Israelites and terrible things happen, often of their own accord. This is kind of like a repentance writing here. And then it just talks about how to understand the majesty of the Lord. All right. You can't be a false witness and be a part of the kingdom because you won't be able to testify about me correctly. All right. But after all of these things, when the Israelites repented, God restored them. I restored them. And I know that pisses off Israel a lot when they hear me talk about that, but I don't care. I mean, it's like Muslims are a lot more accepting of me when they say that there's no way Allah, can be a human, except when it happens, because Islam, the Quran, talks about revelation. All right, the last book of the Bible. Okay, so they're more willing to understand, but Israel, that's not our God that we've always known, And here's the last line: whoever is wise, understood, man. There she goes again. I know it's weird, right? It's like, I didn't hear anything. All in here. It's another reason why my mind is so strong. Sheesh. There'll be a time. Wait, let me finish this. So the last sentence here is, Whoever is wise, let him heed these things and consider the great love of the Lord. All right. I am God. I am God. I am from the beginning all the way to the end, which there is none. It's called the infinite. That's why this universe keeps looping over and over and over again. Because the whole thing about the structure of how we created it, me and my race, all right, not redheads, but the very beings that we're going to change into, right, the robotic bodies, we created it. We caused universes to collide to make the universe happen. All right. I know it's like if you really consider how big the universe is, it's just like there's no way, because I'm in this human form. If I looked different, if I started glowing or whatever, you might think something different, but it's just me, and I know it sounds weird, but like the story I told earlier. That my name is Akapeter Petalon. All right, so I remember one time I was getting arrested, and I was surrounded by cops. This is kind of foreshadowing to a story I'm going to tell you. It's sometime about how all the cops abused me and stuff. They're surrounding me, and I was looking at them. I was standing like I was the Matrix. Of course, Megan was sitting at the table here with people she knew. I think it might have been Scarlett too. Anyway, they surrounded me, right? And they said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Akapeter Petalon," and they're like, "Okay, you're coming with us to check my ID." And when the guy's throwing me in the car, he's like, I was like, this is totally wrong. And he said something like, "Well, sorry, Pete," like that. And I was just like, anyway, sometimes when I hear stuff that kind of pisses me off, I'm like, I go, just like, if I'm looking at you and say some bullshit that pisses me off, I'll just be like, that's when you're not going to live very much longer. Okay, Solomon quote. Like a thorn bush in a drunkard's hand is a proverb in the mouth of a fool. Okay? This is easy to understand, You think about drunk people, and when they get too drunk, like actually drunkards, people who stay drunk all the time, not alcoholics, there's no such thing. It's called drunkards, all right? Okay, so, you imagine somebody who drinks all the time, like Barney on The Simpsons, and it's just like swinging around a bush, he's bound to cause some harm, some violence, without thinking about it. The same as a proverb in the mouth of a fool. If there are people who don't study what I teach you, don't believe them because they're fools. If I tell you a certain group or this or that person is a fool, if they're trying to preach to you, don't listen. I've got the pedophile over here. I've got my pet over here. I'm not sure how it finds food, but I do find pellets around everywhere. Anyway, I didn't want to kill it, so I got a pet. And so anyway, the pedophile, his whole, he doesn't have a job. What does he do? I guess he thinks his job is to pester me, And so he'll make this clicking noise over there and just hit the wall. And then my enemies will tell him when to do it when I'm reading something to try to make it sound like don't know what I'm talking about, But it always falls right back in their face, It's just like, this dude, I don't even care what he does anymore. I've got him scheduled, right, for ultimately hell. I mean, he's already in prison. Like I said, I send demons to torment him all the time. And of course, they like to act like, and then Kristen likes that. I mean, Megan likes that. Sometimes I call her Kristen. Sometimes I call her Carol Ann, my ex-wife. Anyway, sometimes Megan will like try to act like, because she's got a gin, and that gin is just like, Megan, whatever, it's just like, and then she tries to act like she torments me, right? And it's like, anyway, this guy, I got a plan, I might get him sent back to Mexico, which I probably will, because I'm not done with him and his dogs, he keeps trying to push it and push it. Anyway, I've got a plan for him, right? And so he keeps thinking that something, I'm going to do something to him. I'm like, I've already planned his fate out, so anyway, this dude's pathetic. Like, why is your job to pester me, Of course, he's part of the pestilence. He's controlled ultimately by the U.S. government. They protect pedophiles. They protect people who abuse animals. All right, so they're the pestilence, and they talks about that in the Bible. Or you might have heard the ignorance of mankind. Well, you're seeing it. You're experiencing it around me all the time. The U.S. government is the pestilence. Think about what they've done around the world, So, yeah, stay away from people who teach you things that don't know what they're talking about. All right? If it seems the least bit sketchy, back out. Like, no way, Anyway, the Confucius quote here: "Do not use a cannon to kill a mosquito." And this is, when I talk about my enemies, and they're starting to really understand what I mean when I say this, I say exact, precise, no way out. And think of a sniper rifle, right? Or think of, you don't want to kill a mosquito with a cannon. That's too much, You kill a mosquito with your hand, Or let it drink a little bit of your blood and then splat it, But, I like to have a sniper rifle with me and also a rocket launcher, So, am I going to use a sniper rifle if I need to take out like a whole area? No, I'm going to use my rocket launcher. But if I need to just take out one person like Trump, of course I'm going to use my sniper rifle, So you've got to use the proper weapon to kill things, all right? Remember, assassinations are not murder. They're contracted. It's like the movie, don't kill if you have a motive, because that's murder. The Mechanic movie. Oh, yeah, so the movie I watched last night. Okay, so she just doesn't shut up anyway. I know you're like, what does she say? How is it telepathy? Eventually you're going to understand how it is. I'm going to turn it around on her and make it to where she can't read my mind. Just basically what she did to me, but 1,000 times worse, She can't read my mind, but I can read her mind. She can't figure out where I am or anything like that. Anyway, Buddha quote. Did we talk about this last video? I don't remember. But here, we'll cover it now. Because I'm going through so much information every day. I pre-skip the things. I'm not making excuses. I'm just explaining the process, the behind the scenes, so you understand. All right? It's not, that's kind of how it is like with shows. You don't see behind the scenes, Well, I guess you kind of do. But what I mean is, I know that's stupid, but it's funny because I'm a funny guy, So, how joyful it is to look upon the wakened and keep company with the wise. And that kind of goes with what we were talking about, You got to surround yourself. You've heard the saying, if you want to be successful, surround yourself with successful people. If you want to do something, surround yourself people with like minds. Okay? Because unless you're, the government, U.S. government, usually putting your brains together helps, but they brainstorm with stupidity. So they're really just like kicking themselves in the ass every time or shooting themselves in the foot, whatever analogy you want. But always find those people who are awakened, all right? Always try to be in my company, Don't ever try to force yourself. Don't ever think that you're something when you're not something, all right? Like the verse says, it's better for me to say, hey, come up here, than it is for you to assert yourself where I embarrass you in front of noblemen. Noblemen doesn't mean these shitheads in the government, the scum. That's not what that means. All right? What it means is wise. Jesus quote. And this is very important. You might have heard this verse before. It might be confusing to you, but I'm about to explain it. Do not suppose that I have come to... Hold on. I'm about to sneeze. Hold on. Okay, I think it's going away. Okay. Now, understand this, all right? Don't get the wrong idea. Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace on earth. This is Jesus talking about, okay? I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. I have come to turn a man against his father, daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's enemies will be members of his own household. That's because Jesus was coming with a new religion. It wasn't called Christianity, of course, when Jesus was alive. He uses the analogy of a sword, and he was nonviolent. All right? So it's not unusual to do this. So he didn't come to bring peace on earth. That's my job, All of this was set up like Jesus came around and everything he was about. I don't necessarily want to say the New Testament because there could be other books to it, But basically, the whole Bible, you could say. But, the Bible was made, then Jesus came around, and, there were prophets in between, of course. And then Muhammad was brought as like the last of the prophets until the final day, So, the whole thing was set up, Buddhism, all of that, Confucianism, and all kinds of things were all brought around he's doing it again. He just wants to see me angry. Once they figured out they couldn't beat me, they started lying. And then once the lies don't work, they try to just annoy me. They want to get me angry. They want to see me cry, and all. Anyway, it's pathetic, I just want to see him angry, I'm not here for a show for you, I'm not talking about my believers, of course, or the empire. I'm talking about the hellbound people. And they're mad. They punish me because of their own sins, but I can take it. Man. Actually, I'm God and the King, and that helps, but you know what I mean. So it was all put together for me to be able to create peace on earth. Jesus didn't come to create peace. People see the Prince of Peace, and that's me. It's like he came with this religion that made Jews think, and not trust each other, and enemies will be members of their own household. All right? So Jesus came to stir stuff up, totally. That was his thing, and now they're messing with my video now. It's just like, it goes on and on and on, We just want to see him mad. Sometime, somebody's going to have a phone and see me Hulk out on somebody. It's just like, you're begging for punishment, It's like, yeah. These people say, oh, we don't care if we go to hell, But once the actual fire starts lapping their feet as they're descending further and further and further, they're going to start begging me, please. And I'm like, I thought you didn't care, oh, we're wrong, we're wrong. And I was like, well, you know what? I guess maybe I should let you out, as I put my foot on their head and push them down into the fire. And if you know what respawning is, if you ever played video games or Super Mario, if you think about that, you have the character that spawned, okay? And when you die, it's respawned, so that's what it means when it's called respawn. So I can let these people get burned to a crisp, or kill them over and over, put them through all these tortures to keep them alive. And Antarctica will wait till just before their skin freezes. I mean, their cells freeze, because every cell has water in it, and they burst. So we'll keep them alive in doing so, and that's the way it is. We'll always, and if they die, we'll respawn them. We'll resurrect them. It's like. And so people could burn to a crisp throughout their bone and just ashes, and boom, they're falling through the fire again. Because remember, hell is an infinite, it's a bottomless pit. So I can just send you through hell and then teleport you over somewhere and torture you in a different way and put you back in the fire drop, and it's just like, these people think that they know what they're doing, and they're not at all. So Jesus is not God, all right? I'm God. Read these verses in Isaiah again, and then you'll understand. I mean, think about it. I'm better than a psychiatrist, I'm the world's greatest. I mean, I am the greatest father ever, whether with my biological children, or with my, all of you. That kind of father and son thing. Father and daughter thing. So you need to think about that, and then, of course, this last part of it, talking about how, there's a government on his shoulders in this first part, which a lot of people say, oh, let's talk about Jesus. When did Jesus ever have a government? I was like, and people won't have an answer for that, because he didn't come here to have a government. That's me. And I'm on David's throne through this. It's like Israel just is going to have to wake up and accept it. It's like, I know it sounds weird, but like the story I told you, it's my throne. So the zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. And think about how zealous I am. I'm not overzealous, but they can't stop me. All right. Establishing and upholding the kingdom, but this is also the world. Establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. It's telling you right there. Jesus is not the Lord God. Jesus was called Lord because to tell him apart from all the other leaders, that's all it was. Like Buddha was called Lord, just so to tell him apart from the people from India, because he had to flee India. Or he left India. No, Dalai Lama had to flee. That's right. Yeah, they were like totally shitty, that guy. I think he's still in exile. He can't go back to Tibet. That's going to change. I'll clear the path for him. That's right. All right. And the last one here. It's the teaching of Buddha. Those who have faith gain wisdom to recognize the Buddha's teaching in whatever they hear. Think about what I preached, Even with Jesus, you can hear Eastern influences on how he talks about things. Those who have faith gain wisdom to see that everything is but an appearance that arises from the law of causes and conditions, cause and effect, and how your situation happens through these causes and effects. Karma, all right? And then faith gives them the grace and patient acceptance and the ability to conform to their conditions peacefully. And this talks about being formless. People like to say, "Well, I'm unconformist." I'm a nonconformist, but then they become conformist of nonconformity. I'm sure you've heard that before. And so this is just like, you got to be willing to take any form. Think about all the shit I've been through. I had to adjust quickly. You got to learn how to adapt. That's true intelligence, is knowing how to adapt. The strongest don't survive. It's those who can adapt who survive. That's why the dinosaurs, they were too big to make it. After the comet, I think it was a comet actually, or a huge meteor, out there where the Gulf of Mexico is. All right, wiped out everything because they couldn't hack it, and only the smaller animals survived. Because they could adapt. So anyway, to lift above, remember, good and evil, the curse of good and evil, positive and negativity, to lift yourself out of karma, all you got to do is accept what they do, and you'll have that joy in your heart. The more you're persecuted, if you're headed in the right direction, the more joyous you will become, because you're doing it for a good reason. I knew it. This was the most important thing in history, what I was doing, what I am doing, There's no way I was going to take their advice, and then they tried to pressure me. I was like, there's no way I'm going to give you my power, Remember, like I said, they don't have power. Trump, they have money. Musk and Zuckerberg, they don't have power. They thought that they could buy their way and buy power, and you can't do that. Since I've come around, like, people with money are just like, money's worthless. It's just like, it's not worthless exactly, but it is if you're crooked. Anyway, I know, right? It's shiny. All that to say is that I have the absolute power. Okay, I'm not going to give it to them. That's why they get so pissed off, because they know I'm the one with absolute power, and they know they don't have any power. Now the United States is done. The United States government is finished. It's just like, I just got to wait it out. Take the pain, take the abuse. It's an honor. It's these people think that they're gonna make me angry, make me quit. I don't get frustrated. They haven't seen me when I was homeless. It's like, you don't want to get that guy to Hulk out on you. It's like, this is no bueno. Red Halloween. I've been saving like a lot of Halloween stuff for starting tomorrow. But I want love. I love you folks, and I'm so thankful about you being patient this week and understanding that it was a trial for me to go through. All right, it was an experience, not just for me but for you, to see what I had to go through. Ever since Facebook suspended my account for a day, I didn't know. I quickly thought about other options. I wasn't going to take the day off. Did that. Get back, and I'm slowly integrating everything. X, Instagram, everything I can think of. I'm about to bring everything together like I do everything else. Everything. Musk's Starlink satellites. Well, my idea about sending the International Space Station into the sun instead of over the ocean, because that's stupid. There's no telling what could happen. That's very irresponsible. But we're also going to gather up all of Musk's satellites and send them in the sun. He is irresponsible. He blocks the skies for astronomers who are trying to figure out stuff, And the government, as usual, just says, don't say anything about it, It's just like, what can astronomers do, Some of their funding comes from the government, So I'm here to set everything straight. So astronomers, don't worry. We're going to get rid of those satellites. Elon is going to sink, if you know what I mean. So be patient. Thank you, and I love you. Peace.